Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Snap Judgments. Today, I am joined by my friend and yours, the king of all Marvel Snap tournaments, Gunny T. How you doing, Gunny?
I am doing fantastic, other than my extremely long training flight I had today. But other than that, things are going quite well. How about yourself, Aaron? How are you? I don't think I ever get a chance to ask you. You ask me how I'm doing. I don't ever ask you. Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm really, really tired. I might need a day off work to catch up with life, but
Yeah, I
things are
feel ya.
going really well. I am now suddenly streaming, and it was like, and I know this is gonna make one of our guests, both of our guests laugh because this isn't late for them, but like it was like 11 p.m. and I'm like, all right, let's wrap up the stream. And then Kochia rated me, and I was like,
Yeah.
awesome, I'm never sleeping. And
Yep.
so I had to stay up for like an extra freaking hour and a half,
Yeah.
and
That
then I
makes
still had
sense.
to record the podcast now, so I'm
Oh
just
my
really
gosh.
tired.
Well, not only how are you doing, but we have two amazing guests on this week. I'm very, very excited about having both of them on the same podcast together because I think we're going to have really exciting conversations, especially about the topics that we're going to be covering today.
I'm especially excited because I complained about being up till 12:30 and it's like 4:30 in the morning for both of them right now. So they're probably just sitting there like throwing darts at the
Oh,
screen. It's
yeah.
fine. We we are joined first by the person who always joins us for this episode. This is his signature episode of Snap Judgments. We are doing the top 10 decks in Marvel Snap, and of course, we are joined by Marvel Snap Zone's own Den. Hi.
Hello, it is very early. I'd rather say it's extremely early rather than late.
All right. Well,
Better
good
ring
morning,
to
Den.
it.
Den, how could our friends find you?
Mostly on Marvel Snap Zone. I haven't been very active on social media lately. So yeah, lots of Marvel Snap Zone stuff. And if you like people saying complete nonsense in French, still have the YouTube channel.
I really do like that. We are also joined by the number one player in Marvel Snap, 3 separate seasons.
Wow.
It
It's
is,
amazing.
yeah, it is the first and only player to ever do so. My friend and yours, it's Sizer. Sizer, how you doing?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Sizer, if they want to watch you play some Snap, how could they do so?
Oh, you guys can always find me on Twitch. I'm streaming every day. And yeah, just Sizer2654, but you'll see me up there and among the most viewed streams on Twitch.
Absolutely. Please make sure you check out both of our wonderful guests. And if you'd like to check out more from us, the main place to do so is our YouTube at Snap Judgments Pod, where you will find a video every single day featuring a bajillion and one decks every single day. So we get you the best decks in Marvel Snap the most consistently of anyone. So if you're interested in that, please make sure you hit that sub button or check out the YouTube if you're watching or listening on one of the podcast apps. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/snapjudgments, and we have other socials that I don't like or care about. Although we now have a Blue Sky, so if you want to go check out Snap Judge Glazer on YouTube on Blue Sky, I will hopefully eventually be active there. So, Gunny, anything you'd like to promote?
Not really. I will be having some things to promote here shortly. Yeah. So big stuff happening. We know what the T means, so stay tuned.
Cool. Lots and lots of tournaments.
We wanna know.
All right. Well, so we haven't decided yet. We have to actually have a talk after.
Not just that. Bigger.
Ooh, we got big. Oh, bigger than me. Ouch. 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 Oh, I remember when I used to be big. All right. Comparatively, anyway. All right. We got Fenris Wolf, the new card this week. Fenris Wolf is a 2/3. Activate, resurrect the highest power discarded or destroyed enemy card to your side of this location. Let's kick it off with Sizer. What do you think of Fenris Wolf?
Oh, Fenris Wolf was actually the card that had highest hopes this month. And it turns out, my opinion with Fenris Wolf is that it's very average. It's like very balanced. It's not overperforming. It's just a very well-rounded card. It turned out to be. It's not like an archetype defining card. And since I had such high hopes for it, I'm a bit let down by it. But it's definitely not a bad card, but very average in my opinion. Or very well balanced, better to say.
Den, what do you think?
I kind of agree with Sizer. Like, I was super excited about the card, and either we missed something so far, or it's just not as exciting as we saw it on paper. Like, I just see it as another loss for the activate keyword. Like, I don't know. There's no card with that keyword that works for some reason. While
That's
they're
not
all
true.
looking pretty cool.
There's one.
Aranya.
Okay, all
Oh,
right.
there's two. Black Swan and Aranya are both very good cards, right?
Man, I
Black
still
Swan
love me
was
some
good before.
I still love me some Symbiote Spider-Man.
Black Swan is still good. Okay, Symbiote Spider-Man's really fun, but not good. Before we go on a ridiculous tangent of talking about every card that has activate on all 5 of them, I think you're overselling Fenris Wolf. I think this card sucks.
I was going to say the same thing. I think Fenris Wolf is bad.
Oh, no.
Actively not a good card.
Okay,
Yeah.
why?
All right, so here's
okay,
my
go ahead.
take on it. Sorry, I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit,
Yeah,
Glazer.
good. I don't
But
even know
I
if we
think-
have the same reason.
Yeah, I think Fenris Wolf takes setup for one thing. So it's not a standalone good card. You don't play this and it does a thing, right? So there's plenty of cards like that out there. But also your opponent knows exactly what you're going to do, right? So if they play a good card, you might Shang-Chi it if it's big. If you have discarded something out of their hand, they know exactly what's going there. So like all of the information your opponent basically has and the setup you have to do for this card it's just so much. It's just not good. I don't think the payoff is that good for it. You could
So
just be doing better things.
I want to agree with that, but at the same time, I feel like this is both a strength and a problem, because if everyone expects you to play the card a certain way and you find another way to play it, you have free snaps. Like, for example, of course, there's the Shang-Chi interaction or like the discard interaction, but have you ever tried Fenris Wolf with Cannonball in the junk deck? Because
Yes.
nobody sees that coming.
So
Yeah.
there's lots of ways to do it. It's okay. So here's what makes it a bad card to me. You either build around it, and when you build around it, it's face up, and like this isn't okay. I forgot the name of the card. Scream. Scream is a build around card, right? Like you build a deck around Scream. But when you draw Scream in Scream's deck, you feel so insanely strong. You're so suddenly favored as opposed to where you were at the start. Versus when you draw Fenris Wolf in the Fenris Wolf deck, you're like, oh my god, I can actually compete. Like when you draw Scream, you're like, oh yeah, snap condition. When you draw Fenris Wolf, you're like, all right, if I draw my other 3 pieces in the right order and they're doing the right thing, I'm really, really gonna win here. Like that combination, like it just needs too much to be require too much build around.
Yeah, and then I would say you make a good point, Den, that there are different ways to use it. But in a cannonball deck, if you've already locked out 2 other lanes and you're cannonballing, you're probably winning that match anyways. You don't need Fenris Wolf to help you win that one.
Well, you have Fenris Wolf to win the remaining lane or like contest if something crazy happens. But yeah, overall, like I'm not trying to sell the card and say it's amazing.
I think it just takes setup that is not required. You could just be doing better things with your 2/3.
I mean, we could all play Arishem, but do we want to go that line?
No, I'm gonna play good decks.
Yeah, I just said it.
Yeah, you said Arishem. I said good decks. We're disagreeing here.
No, we're not, unfortunately.
We'll get there. Sizer, any final Fenris thoughts?
I mean, yeah, like we also, with Surtur being the season pass card, we really like fantasize that we're going to have a lot of Shang-Chi targets. And then with the Surtur nerf, there's a bit play rate drop on Surtur. Just before Fenris Wolf got released, and maybe that's also affecting.
Yeah, I just think even in that matchup, right? So if you played a Fenris Wolf and you're playing against a Surtur deck, then your opponent just retreats. They're going to expect for you to Shang-Chi, and sure, you can get your free 1 cube there if you want, or maybe even 2 cubes, but you're not winning. You're not blowing somebody out with Fenris Wolf, I don't think.
All right,
yeah,
I'm over this card.
Well, earlier, exactly, I thought the best Fenris Wolf deck, like per stats, was like a Sarah control deck. Where on turn 4 you do gwenpool, and turn 5 you do Sarah, so you only have time to do Fenris Wolf on turn 2 or turn 3, which also limits its like value.
Yeah, I think that remains the biggest problem with Activate. It can't be played on turn 6, and it's limited by its cost, right? So like it's got that double limit that really does make Activate complicated to use.
Yep. Right. We'll get a good Activate card eventually. We'll get it.
You're not convincing me Black Swan's not good, and Aranya's not good. Those are both really good cards.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with Activate.
It does for Swan.
Swan
It
was
100%
playable.
does for Swan.
Swan was playable before.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
she's
that,
better
like,
with activate.
it's like required for the deck now. Well, partially because they nerfed Bishop, but it's like required for the deck now. Whereas before, it was a nice thing to have if you wanted to run it. But like 99% of my look, if it was a, so the problem is I think if it was a 2/3 on reveal, it'd probably be close to as good as it is now as a 2/3 activate. So I guess that is to your point. Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Like, because I'm trying to conceptualize it as a 2/3 on reveal. I think Black Swan as a 2/3 on reveal is about as good as a 2/3 activate, but I think both of those are very good.
Yeah.
I play a lot of Black Swan, y'all. All right, ready for the main topic, which is going to take forever?
Let's go.
I was hoping for you to say 4 hours, but let's do for forever.
All right, let's do no. We're gonna be all die of old age on this podcast. All right, so we got the top 10 decks of Marvel Snap. We're just gonna talk about. I think there's 19 decks we're gonna talk about, so we're just gonna jump right in. Does anyone have any questions? We all know how to do this.
No
We
So-
talk
question.
about decks, we rank them.
Still the same thing. Like you say something, I say I disagree, and then Gunny eventually says we got to move on.
Look, we have Sizer can tie break now, though.
Nice.
All
No,
right,
Sizer can actually make it so it's 2-2.
yeah.
It's
So
even
we
worse.
never end. That's why we're gonna be here forever. You don't understand. All right, our first deck is Arishem Loki. We don't have to talk about this. I'm just going to read the archetype and you can give a general thought on its power level. We don't have to talk about it until we have a deck to compare it to, which we will once we get to the second deck.
Question.
So
because I
yeah.
know I ask this question every single time, but are we talking about the list or are we talking about the archetype?
archetype,
Okay.
this is just honestly a random Arishem Loki list I grabbed. We are not talking about Arishem Thanos, which gets its own spot though.
Okay.
So this is Quinjet, Loki, Shadow King, Cable, Cassandra Nova, Agent Coulson, Shang-Chi, Legion, Mockingbird, Alioth, Magneto, and Arishem. Why those 12? Because those are the 12 Den most recently had in a tier list, and I don't think this list is going to make the top 10, so I didn't bother digging for a better one. What do we think?
Wow. Okay.
You think standard Arishem is going to be in the top 10? Go ahead, take it away.
Well, it's rather, you don't think Arishem deserves a top 10 spot at the moment?
I don't think standard Arishem will, no.
Okay. I mean, we're going to stay for even longer than forever.
All right. Sizer?
Yeah. So yeah, with Arishem, for me personally, it's like when you lose to Arishem, it feels bad compared to any other deck, because but when you play Arishem yourself, you then realize that its win rate is nothing that special. Like losing to it, you know, that their win condition is, you know, by other decks they have like certain combos. By Arishem, their thing is to high roll and out curve you, kind of. And Arishem technically has the weakness that it cannot draw its tech cards consistently. It can, and with that, lose to combo decks.
I don't believe that's true. You can say that all you want. Arishem always has the exact right tech card.
And
Well,
then
yeah, it's
you
kind of
retreat
hard
when you
to
don't,
play.
you snap when you do.
That's kind of hard to play against Arishem. But on the plus side, from Arishem's point of view, Arishem players don't have clear snap conditions. It's kind of harder as an Arishem gamer to find a good moment to snap. I guess usually if you're curving insanely, you can snap as Arishem, but you might not draw the tech cards. Well, that's debatable. Yeah, you never know if they have the tech cards.
I usually just snap on one like a moron, but I guess that's not the way to do it.
I mean, you can if it works.
It doesn't. That's why I don't think it's the way to do it.
One of the big things about Arishem is I feel like the Arishem player has all of the agency and the opponent has none of the agency. Like they obviously knew what they drew, what they have randomly been generated. So you're right, they don't have those snap conditions you're talking about, but you don't have snap conditions against Arishem. Like I feel like I never snap against Arishem because I have no idea what they are going to be able to play.
So as soon as Arishem falters at all on curve, I snap him.
They ever do that?
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean,
God,
like
okay.
they're playing like just generated random bullshit that's not that strong. That happens reasonably often.
Oh, okay.
But
They
if I
still
play
curve. Like, they're still doing something.
Yes, they're still doing stuff, but they're not doing the stuff. And if they're not doing the stuff, I feel like because my deck has synergy, even if they're one energy ahead, I can usually outpower them. Assuming it, like the question is like, then you're just playing the which tech card did they draw game. Do we need to gain priority for Eliath or throw priority for Eliath? No, whatever. Gain priority for Eliath or throw priority for Shang-Chi? How do I need to do this exactly? Am I worried about Shadow King? Am I worried about whatever? That's what like the real obnoxious thing is. Oh my god, did they randomly just Magneto me and play Mockingbird and something else? Well, awesome. I
Yup.
lost. You know what I mean?
Yup, we did.
So fine, but like, so you're gonna lose a fair amount of those games. So like, there's a lot of cube variance in these games. But
I think so. So let's talk about win rate for a second. So win rate might be low, but what is the cube rate on an Arishem deck? Because I feel like that's got to be higher.
Win
this
rate
is-
gotta be low.
It's a good
Okay.
point. I think so.
But
Yeah, I think-
low comparative, right? It's not actually low, but I'm just saying, like the Arishem player just retreats whenever they don't have this stuff, but then they blow people out because they randomly are generated things.
It's kind of the opposite actually. Like I took out the stat just to check. Arishem is the highest win rate in the game at the moment.
Wow.
yeah, I think a lot of that is people run against it. Honest to God.
I'm not saying
think-
it deserves it. I'm just
No.
saying
I understand.
it's
I'm
more
not
of
saying
a win rate deck than a cube rate deck.
I'm not saying
Okay.
you're wrong. I think that's what's happening here. I think what's happening is people have too much respect / fear of Arishem. That's why my win rate against it is pretty solid, right? Because I'm not scared of the stupid card. Like people snap me and I'm not just like I'm out. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's I've got my curve and my stuff. Like if you're snapping me, you're probably snapping me because you have X, Y, or Z, right? And now I can try and figure out how to play around that. And sometimes that X, Y, or Z is like, oh my god, that's an Ultron with a Mockingbird that I couldn't have seen coming. Fuck you, I lost. But more often than not, it's like they're just like, I Eliath here, and I'm like, well, great. That's where I stuck my like 3 demons.
It's
Have a
just
great
it's
day.
so random. Like the other day, I played against Arishem. They had Cassandra Nova against me, and it wasn't. I was playing a normal deck. And there was 4. The 4 rocks were added to my deck, so the Cassandra Nova hit that. Then they had randomly gotten my Arnim Zola from the location that steals cards from people's hands, and then they had Odin on top of that. So they Arnim Zola the Cassandra Nova, so it went off 2 more times. Then they used Odin to get 2 more Arishems. Sorry, to get another Arnim Zola
Yeah.
to pop Odin's, but it went off. It was crazy. Like that's nothing that can happen in any other deck. It was wild.
Yes, but that's why people run against. Well, yes, it can negative, but that's why people run against Arishem, because we all remember those games and we forget the other games where we stayed and won, and like it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, they just had the thing, right? Like, and I feel like that respect for Arishem is why its win rate is so high right now. I don't think it's anything the deck is doing especially well. At least that's my opinion. I unfortunately, this is clearly anecdotal, right? But like, I don't know. I watched Sizer play against Arishem, and outside of one specific Italian player, I feel like he does a really, really good job at beating the crap out of it. Like when I watch like Husky play against Arishem, like good players do not seem to be losing heavily to Arishem. Like they lose to Arishem, right? It's not like it's Marvel Snap. The best matchups in the world are like 55-45. But like I don't feel like it's insane at all.
Like
I
feel,
do sometimes, and we'll get there. Feel like the Thanos version maybe, but we'll get to why later.
like I
much
feel
less.
confident against Arishem if my deck has Shang-Chi or US Agent. Like
Mhm.
in particular with Shang-Chi, that Arishem players don't have the cards to protect the cards of getting Shang-Chi.
I feel good if I have Cassandra Nova,
or Cassandra
Ajax.
Nova.
right? Like Ajax is so good against Arishem. They almost certainly don't have Luke, and your Ajax is as big as anything they're going to play. So unless they see specifically Shang-Chi, you're in really great shape.
Well, they're also playing Enchantress.
I'm very rarely seeing Enchantress. I have not seen an Enchantress, and I'm currently top 500. I have not seen an Enchantress in literally like a season and a half.
I haven't seen it in a while, but it's always included in there for some reason.
Oh. All right, fair enough. Let's keep going. I think this might be a difference in where people are playing. We are comparing Arishem to Bounce, and now I think we have to have a fight. So, I may have like a 90% win rate with Bounce this season. Like I'm 9-1 on my phone, and I haven't on my computer, and I haven't lost a game on my phone in like 3 or 4 sessions. Outside of like 1 cube early retreats. I think Bounce is insanely strong. This is just the classic Bounce. I guess I should read the list. Hood, Sable, Rocket, Nico, Toxin, Swan, Falcon, Agent Venom, Sage, Bishop, Hitmonkey, Beast. And you can change 2 or 3 cards here and there. But why did everyone stop playing this? Does anyone know why people stopped playing this?
Because Agent Venom got nerfed, and now it's complicated to play, and people don't want to learn it.
Oh,
basically.
okay. But it's not worse. It's not like much worse.
It's such a fun deck, even.
Yeah. Like, I feel so favored into Arishem with this deck.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like, I feel favored into 90% of the meta. Like, no one's, like, if I run into a Mobius and I didn't expect it on turn 5, I'm in trouble. But if they played it on 3, I can usually outpower that. Like, what is the predator to this deck outside of, like, gain priority by accident and get killmongered?
Sarah Control?
Yeah, okay. Fair. Sarah Control, which is back on the rise because of Fenris Wolf. But is not always running Invisible Woman anymore, so I can throw priority reasonably effectively sometimes.
And I think for me,
Although-
Bounce is definitely up there in top 3 best decks in the game.
Oh,
And maybe it fell off in play rate because in the first week, when Surtur came out, everyone wanted to try the new thing. And in the first week, all Surtur decks kind of had Cosmo in it, which now they don't run anymore. They switched to Luke Cage.
Yeah,
Maybe
which they
that's
had to
also
because
the
everyone ran US Agent.
Yeah, but I think Bounce it's definitely like one of the best decks. More people should be playing it.
Then?
Yeah, I mean, I love Bounce. It's just usually the argument is it's so difficult to play that if we're considering the average player, the deck falls down the list. And
Fuck
but
the
that's
average
it.
player.
I mean, if we're
let's
talking
let's
about,
say if you're good with the list.
if you're good with the list, yeah, you can be top 1, 2. I don't know, but somewhere in there.
Okay. Are we okay putting it ahead of Arishem?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, I'm going to be clear. I don't mean fuck the top player as in like they don't count. I mean fuck the top player as in if you want to play any of these decks, like you should take the time to learn to be good at them. And I truly believe, because I was terrible when Sizer first started playing moves several seasons ago, I could not win with that list. My win rate was abysmal. And now whenever I play that deck, I feel completely dominant. It's just you put in the reps, right? Like you put in the reps and you think about how you play, and then I promise you can get good at these decks. Like Marvel Snap is not a complicated enough game where I feel like that's impossible for almost anything.
By the way, what do they cut for Shadow King in this list?
I've seen Sage cut, and I've seen what's the other cut? No, it's usually just Sage or Bishop. Sometimes Agent Venom, but I don't like that idea.
Nah, let's keep Agent Venom for now.
Oh yeah, there's no Mysterio.
I love Mysterio. Yeah, Agent Venom's really, really good though. Just hitting multiple cards here is just so strong. Plus the 2/5 base is very, very strong toward turn 5. Alright. Bounce move. This is Aranya, Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist, Dagger, Madam Web, Toxin, Doctor Strange, Frigga, Vulture, and Beast. Sizer has magic in there. Many people have Agent Venom. Some people have Falcon. Pick your poison. Where does this list rank? And as you talk about it, I'm going to look up what they cut for Shadow King because I have that written down. Den, go.
There's Frigga in the list. It's like, to me, it's like we make the rankings and then we put this over everything. Like, it's a 0.
You think this is the best deck in the game?
I think there's Frigga in it.
Wait, what does that mean? Is Frigga that good?
No, but I just love Frigga.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm not understanding something here.
Like if we're on the put in the time and learn the decks, I think this is as good as Bounce. It's maybe more complicated, but it's as good as Bounce. Maybe it gets retreated more because you show your points a little bit more. But
Sage is the cut. Just so you know, Sage was the cut for Shadow King. Sizer, talk about the deck.
I have 500 games on this deck this season, and I have a 59% win rate. And I decided to opt in for the magic in this deck because it gives you an extra turn to Frigga, and it also adds with some extra consistency to draw like the moving pieces. I think the fundamental weakness of this deck is Cosmo and Alioth and the occasional Juggernaut. But you're not really scared of Shadow Kings and Shanks because you typically manage to beast everything and put toxin everything back into your hand before the final turn. I really like this deck. It's really fun to play, but as Dan said, it's very telegraphed sometimes that the opponent is going to lose because you just figured like a 20 power Human Torch or something. So you might not get so much cube equity. There's less surprise factor, but it's still a solid deck and contender up there.
So I have this below the base bounce. I think that when things go even remotely right, this is a better deck. But this has more dud draws than I think people are like. It's easy to remember the games when you're just like, ooh, it is literally impossible for me to lose. There are no cards in the game that beat me. But it's hard to remember the games where you're just like, oh my god, can I please just draw one freaking card that triggers off moving? One. Anyone. I'll take a move card, please. And like you just don't see it, right? And you sit there miserable and you have literally no way of competing. That happens a fair amount. And then so do the games where you do so well that your opponent's just like, no, thank you. The first snap,
What's a
they're just
fair amount?
bye.
Like a third of the deck is move cards.
Yes.
How do you not find move cards when you get like 4 cards in the first turn? A fifth, like by turn 3, you've seen half your deck and you have 5 out of 12 which are move cards.
No. The move payoffs. You need torch. You need torch, dagger, or vulture.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like a quarter of the deck.
Yeah. So like you need one of those 3, and I'm telling you, I've played this deck enough. Sizer, you've played 500 fucking games because you tell me.
No, it is a bit more inconsistent than one thinks. That's why I had to add like magic and also Frigga for some extra consistency. But I agree, I think bounce is actually a bit better than this by a few percentage.
It's like in this one, you need like 3 things to line up, whereas bounce, you really only need 2 things to line up, right? You play cards, bounce them. This, you need to play cards, make sure you have payoffs for the playing the cards, and bounce those as well.
I'd also like to take a moment and have join Den in appreciating how fucking fun Frigga is. Like, I love Frigga. Frigga's such a fun card.
And that variant is also so cool.
Yep. It's so much better than Fenris. It's so much better than Fenris.
Yet I bought Fenris.
And not Frigga?
And not Frigga.
Do you have anti-venom?
Yes, I have anti-venom.
Rough choices, friend. Rough choices.
I know.
Anti-venom into 0 Frigga is real strong. Alright. We ready to move on? Is this above Arishem? I assume yes?
Yes.
Okay. Alright. BBK Discardolith. This is the Malekith version of Discard. In my opinion, this is the strongest version of Discard. The Fenris Wolf version has been doing shockingly well thus far in a lot of players' hands. I still think the Malekith version is better because draw consistency is so particularly important for this list, but whatever. Scorn, Blade, Morb, Grandmaster, Swarm, Colleen Wing, Gambit, Lady Sif, Dracula, Malekith, MODOK, and Apocalypse. Some people cut Swarm or Grandmaster for Proxima. Live your truth. It does not matter. What do we think of this list, Den?
I think Discard hasn't been this good in a very long time. Like, since the Surtur nerf, this is probably like the easiest deck to play if you just want to slam points. And like Malekith and Grandmaster and like the non-discard cards have added like a little twist that makes it much more like unpredictable than it was in the past. Like, so I really like it. I've even seen like lists with like Strong Guy, which synergizes really well with Malekith. So I like it.
Yeah, I'm a bit biased because the decks I play kind of have the edge over Discard. Like my move decks, my Malekith decks, they just simply outpower Discard, or they just Red Guardian the Dracula. Like that's if Discard ever goes out of control, like it does suffer against a good Red Guardian on the Dracula. I don't call this Discard anymore. For me, it's a Gambit archetype because I never lose to the Discard stuff. I only lose to the Gambit. Like, but I'm biased opinion because my decks outpower Discard. But generally, I agree with Dan as well. It's like Discard hasn't been this good since a long time, and I've just been wondering how can one squeeze in Meek in this list.
Well, so the problem with Meek is Malekith, right?
Well,
Like-
it's also the fact that it sucks, but yeah, sure. it's
Meek,
Malekith.
not according to Glenn.
Okay.
Like, as I was like, Meek is bad, and Glenn was like, Meek's stats are some of the best in discard, period.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I don't know. He's got
I
better
mean,
stats than I do, right?
The fact that it doesn't grow until you play it, the fact that it gets Killmonger, I feel like
You don't
there's a
have
lot
to
of
tell
things
me.
I
I
don't
thought
like
it
about
sucked
the
too.
card.
I think Malekith just changed that though. I think Malekith is too good. Like for it to lose.
Probably.
That's why I don't run Fenris, right? Like Fenris and Malekith are anti-synergy.
Yeah, you pick one. So pick the good one.
Yeah, Malekith. Malekith is like, is it crazy that Malekith is my spotlight card of the month so far? Like, unless Gore is incredible, I think Malekith is the best card that was in spotlights.
Well, I think pre-nerf Surtur was the best card, but
That's not in spotlights. You have to spend $9.99.
we're talking spotlights. Oh, then
Spotlights.
it's free. It's Frigga.
For me, it's
Malekith is a
Malekith
better
as
card
well.
than Frigga.
If we're
I
talking
like
about
Frigga
stats,
more. I think Malekith is better.
Probably, but it's not as fun. So.
Nothing's as fun as Frigga. Frigga's one of the most fun cards in the game. All right. Can we put this ahead of Arishem? Is this ahead of Arishem? I'll tell you what. This beats the shit out of Arishem.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, also cool then.
It can't go above bounce move though. Bounce move takes
But
boobies on this.
It
Yes.
depends the target
Yeah,
player.
bounce move
Yeah,
is
that's
still
fair.
alive. In at least in that matchup.
So, I think part of the reason this deck works so well is people do not respect its snaps. Because it's showing so little power. People do not respect discard snaps. I think that has to change eventually. But like, all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, that's a 30 power lane, and it did not appear to be a 30 power lane.
I can speak that is true. I've had my pants pulled down multiple times by this deck recently.
Yeah.
It is very good.
Are you telling like people to stop acting like bots, or do they misunderstand?
I mean, it'd be nice if people stopped acting like bots. Like, sometimes, like, if I'm playing this list, sometimes I stay when I know I shouldn't, because I know that, like, if they're not playing many cards, and I know I have Gambit, right? Like, I'll just be like, you know what? This is only, like, a 35% chance of winning. Like, if I hit the exact right discards, and then, like, I can just outpower them. And if I don't hit the exact right discards and Gambit hits the right thing, that's like a 30-35% chance. But if I run, I'm 100%
That's good
lost. And
enough.
if it's only for 2 or 4 cubes, I'll be like, meh. And I'm winning a lot of those. That's not an incorrect stay on their part, but I shouldn't run either. I think it's harder than it looks.
I mean, math-wise, you're supposed to stay if you have more than 25% chance to win.
Yeah.
So.
But they're not supposed to run either. So, right, like the correct answer is that both stay. But like, I get a lot of cubes out of that.
Take him.
I like this deck a lot. I've never liked discard before. We're going to talk about Malekith like 7 times. All right, this is the slightly wrong version, so I'm going to read this as the right version. This is Tuccrr's She-Hulk Double Up. I love this list. This is the only Surtur deck I play. It is Wasp, Sunspot, Kitty Pryde, Hydra Bob, Titania, Black Swan. This should be Shadow King, Hit Monkey, Hope Summer, Surtur, Moon Girl, She-Hulk.
I actually like US Agent instead of Shadow King, to be honest.
I did, and I lost just a few. All the other Surtur decks started running Luke, and that got frustrating. But
Oh.
it also was really, really limiting my She-Hulk Surtur combination in ways that were annoying.
Okay. Also, like 100% Kitty Pryde should be Ant-Man, but I don't know why people just like to play Kitty Pryde for absolutely no freaking reason.
The Hope Summers,
Oh.
maybe.
Yes, for the hope. I don't really care. I'm
For
fine
Hope
with that. now.
Summer, the point is to play Moon Girl behind Hope
look,
Summers. Like,
look.
you're not supposed to be able to play Kitty Pryde if your deck does what it's supposed to do.
So it gives you the turn 5. I can still play Kitty. Get that bigger. Get the extra trigger. So on and so forth. I think the card actually that this deck wants that it doesn't run is Makari.
You could run Makari. Yeah.
Like, I think Makari is an absolutely excellent card on this list. But either way, I think this is probably our bottom deck so far, but it's one of my favorites.
Probably. I mean, it's very, very good when it's unknown, and then people
Mhm.
start talking about it, and people know how to play against it, and it goes from good to bad, So I guess
I
it
mean-
ends up somewhere in the average.
Again, like, if I look at a player, if I look at a player's rank, and sometimes this backfires, right? But if I look at a player's rank and they're like ranked 5,000, 6,000, right? And I'm playing this deck, and I play Moon Girl, I know I can snap and they're going to stay, and I'm just going to get more cubes.
Yeah.
If I do that against a top player, as like before I Moon Girl, they're just like, oh, he clearly has the thing, and they just run.
The good thing, like the game plan in this deck is to lose priority by all means. Like so
Mhm.
you always enter turn 6 not having priority, and then you have free reign to Shadow King and dump everything, and no one knows exactly how much power you're gonna play there. And no one knows, did you Moongirl 2 She-Hulks plus 2 Hitmonkeys plus... There's a lot of unpredictability. But I don't know how it performs like on average. I know that it can high roll and burst a lot of power, but how does it perform? Like,
I mean,
how's this consistency?
On average, it's pretty fun to look at because it's going to do incredible a week, and then people are going to talk about it, and the next week it's terrible.
Yeah, it's
It-
a
it's-
mid 50% win rate deck at high infinite.
Yeah, and the cube rate goes super high or super low depending on if people are careful against it or not.
Cube rate's decent. It's around the same as Arishem. The Surtur version is not as good as it was because that's the version everyone's been playing lately. But the non-Surtur versions are doing a little better. I don't know. Again, our bottom deck so far, but like a really good deck, not one to like shit on. Everyone's nodding, so I'm just going to move on to Fenris deck. Well, I guess we have a new bottom deck. It's Mill. It's Hood, Iceman, Yondu, Cable, Fenris, Baron Zemo, Beast, Gladiator, Shang-Chi, Misery, Black Bolt, and Stature. Den, defend your baby.
Defend my baby. I'll say exactly what you guys said about your decks. If you're losing with it, it's because you're playing it bad.
I need to watch you play this more.
No problem. I have an entire tournament of shitting on Europe with it.
I know. Gunny ran that tournament.
True.
I think the meta shit.
I didn't stream that part. Only streamed the part where I sucked.
I thought. I think my opinion is the meta has shifted enough that is not what it doesn't do what you want it to.
Too much, like the buff to Thanos, and there's much more of Arishem. So the deck is worse in the metagame, but I just like the fact that the game is complicated enough that it makes Marvel Snap not feel like super simple. Like, I don't know, if you like to have to like control a lot of things at the same time, and like you have to think about a lot of elements, this deck is really rewarding to play. It's kind of like when you feel like really good on bounce or move or that kind of stuff, where like you can anticipate 4 turns in advance and you feel like you're playing cards and not just throwing cards. That's the reason why I like this deck mostly.
Cesar?
I actually want to try this deck. I just took a picture of it on my phone to try it out.
But actually, I don't know where the Black Bolt stature comes from. I wasn't the one to come up with the Black Bolt stature. Like, typically you have Grandmaster Wiccan. I actually like Black Bolt stature. I should try it. Probably would not remove Grandmaster, though. Would remove Iceman instead.
I think the meta is just hostile to it right now. With Thanos and Arishem running wild, like your goal is to like get rid of all of their cards, obviously, and it's so hard to do that against those two decks.
Well, against those two decks, you play the Hood game plan, and these two actually give you Shang-Chi targets. So you play very, very differently against them.
Sure.
It's not like that difficult to win. You just stack 2 lanes with Demons and Black Bolt and Misery, and you get 2 lanes at 20 very easily.
Is this better than the double up deck?
And the double up deck? Yes.
Yes? I'll trust your expertise. Is it better than Arishem?
I would say for the 99% of players, no.
Yeah. So what I consistently say, because I feature this deck a lot, is unless it is your Ava, people should probably not play this list.
Yeah, I mean, it was built to be a counter to the anti-venom meta, and since then we have seen more Thanos, less anti-venom. So naturally, this deck has lost a lot of momentum. So yeah, it's kind of like well, I guess bounce and move, you can learn them because they are good and they're very likely to remain good in the future. But I mean, if someone wants a challenge and wants to learn something different, that's a good deck. But yeah, probably not top 10 material at the moment.
So we're going to keep it right below Arishem. Our 6 decks so far are Bounce, Move Bounce, Discard, Arishem, Mill, and Double Up. And it's time to add Pure Move. This is probably the single deck in Marvel Snap that a single person has played the most. Aranya, Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist, Dagger, Meta Web, Cloak, Cosmo, Mobius. Mobius is the swing spot. That's been like every card in the game at this point. It's been Kang, for God's sake. Vulture, Eliath, Heimdall. I'm going to say something controversial. I think this deck has dipped in power fairly severely in the past few weeks. Sizer?
For me, this is my favorite deck to play in the game. This season I have 400 games with it and a 62% win rate.
Well, that's pretty good.
I feel like this deck has no like bad matchups. Like its weaknesses is if your Madam Web can get rogued or Red Guardian, but it doesn't really have any bad matchups and has a lot of unpredictability for the opponent. Like it's very mentally taxing for your opponent to figure out what you're going to be doing on turn 6. And it's a biased opinion, but for me this is the best deck in the game, simply because it doesn't have any hard counters.
What's the reasoning for Mobius instead of like another tech card in that slot?
Yeah, this is the deck I got rank 1 with last season, and in the last week of last season, my pocket meta was primarily Sarah Control, Bounce, anti-venom gamers, and people experimenting with the Tens deck before Surtur came out. That was my primary like pocket meta, and that's why I just added Morbius in that deck, just to have an extra edge. And it was also Infinity Conquest week where all the Destroy Bros come out, and it was just like a pick to deal with those decks.
I like that those people just materialize. What do they do for the rest of the season? Like, they got to be somewhere. Like, it's not like Destroy has a crazy, like, play rate outside. You know what I mean? Yeah. Outside of that week. Why does that happen? And they're just like, Destroy time, baby! All right. I think you're higher on this deck than I am right now.
Yeah, I think someone had the reasoning with the Destroy Bros that there's so many locations which are good for Destroy.
I mean, I guess, but like, yeah. These are high CL players as a rule, right? Like, they have other options.
I mean, they had to get Infinity tickets too.
Yeah, I don't get it. But like, I don't see them in gold ever
from the shop most of the time.
That's true. All right, Den, what are your thoughts on this deck?
I think it's really good if you have the fundamentals of the game down, which is like end all priority, know the popular decks, etc. So I think this is very high on the list and probably easier than the 2 bounce decks to learn if someone wants to pick up a really good deck.
It was so much harder for me to learn this than the bounce decks.
Because you've played bounce for like 6 months before starting actually on the current bounce decks.
No, I was good with bounce like immediately. Like the second I picked up bounce just like my brain was like, I know what to do with you.
Because you've done trampoline when you were a kid.
No, I'm very clumsy. All right, so Gunny?
I don't know, man. I think it's definitely under the top 2 right now. What's number 3?
Discard. It's definitely above discard.
Yeah, I think it's number 3.
So let's start with move bounce. Is this better than move bounce?
No.
I think it is because it shares the same weaknesses as move bounce, but move bounce has the additional weakness that it loses to Cosmo and Elia. And the weaknesses it shares is that if the Madam Web gets hit by a Red Guardian or a Rogue.
Then?
I would put it in the middle of both bounce move, just so it's not bounce, but I think like the 3 decks are like pick the one you're most comfortable or want to play at the moment. I don't have a strong opinion on which one is better. Maybe this one has more room for tech cards, so maybe it's slightly better because it's more like adaptable.
Okay. So do we want to put this above or behind then regular bounce? Because the vote went toward putting this ahead of move bounce. Does this go ahead of or behind regular? It beats the shit out of regular bounce. Just for the record, it beats the living shit out of bounce. If the head-to-head matchup is a tiebreaker, like, holy shit, I see this deck I just run. Like, they play like 3 cards, and I'm like, and unless I have Shadow King, I'm out of here.
Well, I personally would put it above bounce. because there's
Yeah.
less weaknesses.
Let's go with Scyther then.
Okay. In number 1, we have Pure Move. You know what? I'm going to make a semi-executive decision at this point. Let's focus this on top 1,000. Is that fair?
Sure.
Like we usually try and be more, but like we got Sizer on for this one, so it's like it'll be our like the twist for this episode. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah,
What do you mean? To like from the top 1,000 player point of view? Or...
Yeah. As
Okay.
opposed to like because we usually spend a lot of time like on that on like I don't know what's a
How
good
would the
example.
average player play
destroy
this?
and like how would they play this? Could they handle this? And that's a big part of the rankings. I think like given that you're here, given that like that changes the tenor of the conversation just by virtue of that you live in the top 3.
Mhm.
I think that I think it's worth looking at it from that perspective and seeing how things change. And like we can still discuss the other option, but like let's focus around this.
I think from that perspective, maybe bounce would be better.
Really?
Yeah, I think that
Why does
I think the average person can have a better win rate with bounce.
Yeah, but we're not talking about average. We're taking top 1,000.
Oh, I meant the top 1,000 average person.
Oh, okay. All right, I can live with that. We can move
Well,
bounce above
I just know that the stats. I play the stats at a higher, like the stats of this deck are maybe 55% for the.
Well, let's check. I'm gonna just type in Hitmonkey, and we'll see the top rate. Top 10% infinite Hitmonkey. Top 10% is 5,000, not 1,000, but good enough. The top bounce, which is the literal exact version I just talked about, is 59% win rate right now with a 0.47 cube rate. And I'm gonna hit Eliath and Heimdall because that's exactly one deck in Marvel Snap. Is 54% and 0.29. So yeah, that'll settle that. Although there's still like 8 versions with different tech cards. The win rate's just lower on this. People really struggle with this list. It's not easy.
I made an intensive YouTube guide on it.
I know, really good guide. Boop. On reveal negative. I really like this list. It is not great right now, but it's super fun. It is Psylocke, Ravonna, Ironheart, Mystique, Sage, Magic, Frigga, Negative, Wong, Iron Man, Thor, and Taskmaster. Jane Thor and Taskmaster. Done?
I wouldn't put it in top 10, but I think it's a consideration at the moment, especially with Deadpool Dinner. I think like negative is these kind of decks where you're like, I have no idea what to play, but I know I don't want to learn anything new. Just pick negative and it's okay. The problem is there's still quite a lot of Cosmo and Mobius and Alioth, and sometimes you run into the occasional Mobius and you're just like, all right, this game's shit.
Sizer?
Yeah, I just Mr. Negative. You know, when you hit play Mr. Negative, your opponent should be retreating. So you're kind of relying on the opponents of doing mistakes, like, or I guess one always does. But I think this might be the worst deck from the ones we've seen until now. It has a very high ceiling, but it should be very telegraphed when to retreat.
Kenny?
Yeah, I agree. Worst deck we've seen.
Okay. Be okay with putting this below the double up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, both lose to Mobius.
Yes, very true. Very true. But the other deck, I think, works more often. It's just more consistent overall. So, right. Silky Splat. This is just a whatever. I grabbed a version of the Ronin deck, the first one I saw. What we're doing is we're talking about Wiccan Malekith Ronin decks. This version has Quicksilver Domino. They don't usually, although I'm going to be honest, I don't hate Quicksilver Domino in this version. Maximus, Sage, Juggernaut, Luke, Speed, Absorb Men, Malekith, Anti-Venom, Wiccan, and Ronin. Do we think this list ranks?
I feel like the early game in this list is always so awkward. You don't have. Okay, actually, it's playing Quicksilver Domino, but the other versions of this list.
I played this a fair amount, and it felt both good and terrible. Like even as it felt good, it felt terrible. If that makes sense.
That's where I am as well on these decks. Like I would put it somewhere with like Arishem. Like if you're a flexible pilot and you know when to snap and when to retreat, you're probably gonna make something out of that deck. But if you hope the deck is going to carry you, you're probably going to have a bad time.
I feel like people just keep wanting to make Ronin a thing, and Ronin's just not a thing. Like, except for the existence of Luke Cage, Ronin's just worse than Ajax.
I think in this particular list, the problem is on turn 3, your only playable cards are really Speed and Luke Cage. You don't really want to play Sage or Juggernaut, but you're forced to if you have Awaken in your hand.
Oh, but yeah, Absorb Man should be changed for Shadow King, by the way.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it has surprisingly good stats, but I didn't have good experience playing it myself.
I think it's below mill. Is that a fair spot? Below mill, above. Actually, is this above double up?
Stats-wise, yes, but I would say no.
Yeah, I think it's easier to play than double up. So overall, it's a better deck. But if we're talking about like people who invested the time, I'd probably play double. Like if I had to go to a tournament tomorrow, I'd rather go double up than did this.
Gunny?
I don't like the double up deck. I tried it. I played like 10 games of it. I know it's not a huge sample size, but it just wasn't working for me. So I would choose this over double up.
Is it gonna be 2-2 and then we're just stuck? Make it 2-2.
I don't care. Neither of these lists are making the list. I'm gonna put it on the same literal line as double up and not care.
So we call it what?
There's no chance that the current number
up V1.
I'm just naming it Ronin.
That's fun.
Boop. Scream. This is just a random. This is like the generic Scream list. I know there's newer versions of this. I don't really care. The whole point of these decks is that Scream is really good. What shell you put around the really good card Scream is what determines. Kingpin, Hydra Bob, Kraven, Scream, Juggernaut, Polaris, Spider-Man, Shang, Miles, Stegron, Arrow, Magneto.
I mean, there's no Cannonball, so it's bottom of the list. But if we had it, I think it's a really good.
Pretend there's Cannonball. I don't care.
I know, but
it's not the exact 12.
I need to defend the cards I like.
Look, Cannonball's a phenomenal card.
I know.
This was the version with the higher win rate at the time of writing.
There's a build of the list that I like a lot, which is remove Shang-Chi, remove Magneto, and get in Daredevil and Cannonball. Daredevil with Cannonball and Arrow is so good.
Okay, I can see that.
But yeah, I think I don't know exactly where we at, but this is top 5 in my book. This is around the discard level. Like it's a gimmick. Yeah. It does one thing, but it does it very, very well.
But that thing is draw Scream.
Yeah,
without Scream, this deck has no win rate. Again, according to Glenn, like his claim was that Scream has similar stats to being to negative on play.
I could agree to it, but at the same time, we have move very, very high, and this deck is very good against move.
As long as it draws Scream, like.
Yeah, but they don't know that. When you play Kingpin on 1 and you snap, they never know if you have Scream because they retreat.
That's fair.
That's fair. We calculated once.
The win rate on this is insane.
The chance to draw Scream is roughly 40%. To draw it and play it on 2.
So the win rate on these decks is really high, friends.
Yeah, this deck's really good. So here's the thing too. Like, drawing Scream is very important, but you can still win games just by screwing up your opponent's plan. Like, that is.
So apparently that doesn't really happen. Like again, according to Glenn, right? Like he's like, and when you don't see Scream, you should just run. Like, Scream is by like turn 3 or 4, Mr. Negative for this list. It's just you have to see him, otherwise you're just playing an underpowered deck. You can still win, right? Like you can win with anything. Again, Marvel Snap has that like win rate swing thing, but like without Scream, that's part of why I like the junk version so much, even if they're not necessarily as good stats wise. Is at least I don't feel like I'm dead without Scream, even though I'm still dead without Scream. I'm just coping.
Well, you can try it with Kraven.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yes, there's Heimdall versions with Kraven. Heimdall and Kraven are very underrated, just as a 2-card pairing. All right. Is this above or below discard?
I think
above.
I think it's easier at the moment than discard because it's really you have Scream, you snap, and you don't have Scream, you play careful. So this makes it easier to pick up and play the discard in my book. But honestly, I'm not gonna argue above or below.
So
I mean, check
It's very tight.
the
to me,
stats
actually.
as well. You said stats
I
are
did. The
are
stats
crazy.
are stats are relatively close. Discard's got
Okay.
a really great stat rate right now too.
Damn.
Like Discard, outside of the best bounce deck, Discard and Scream have a better win rate than move, bounce, or bounce.
I think it's so tight. We should decide: who wins the mirror? This against Discard.
Discard wins the mirror, right?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, because you don't get Juggernaut
Magneto.
value. Oh,
Magneto.
What about Magneto?
Magneto is really good in that mirror. Unless they see Swarm. I don't know.
I mean, no one's really keeping their Morbius in Discard under 10 power. So there's always going to be Shang-Chiable. If you...
Alright, let's throw it above. Scream in the 4 spot. This isn't above move bounce, right? No one's arguing that it's above move bounce. It beats move bounce, but it's not as good as move bounce into the meta.
Yeah, it's in that second group of really good decks with Discard.
Mhm.
Like we have a first group with like bounce, move, and the deck that you actually need a little bit of finesse and you need to learn, and then you have the decks that are still good, but they have a ceiling because they're so easy to play.
Fair enough.
Do you guys think Scream is underexplored?
No.
I don't know if it's underexplored. I think it's just underplayed.
I don't know if it's underplayed. It's got a reasonably high play rate. It's one of the cheapest powerful decks in the game. It does, outside of Cannonball, it doesn't really run any other high series cards. Like Scream is a really good early buy if you're just looking to get into like top tier decks.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
cool.
a great entry door to playing competitive decks quickly.
Mm-hmm. 10s. This version, Nico, Zabu, Shadow King Armor, Juggernaut Luke, Surtur, Atuma, Crossbones Cull, Typhoid Scar. I'm going to guess that this is in the exact same range as the last deck we talked about.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I would agree.
To me, it is. It's in that second group. Like it has enough power that it's gonna win you games just because it drew well, and it's predictable enough that against people that are not like completely falling asleep, you should never win a lot of cubes.
How do you counter this deck, do you guys think?
How do you counter this deck? Well, whenever they miss the early game, like whenever you don't see like Surtur or even Zabu, you can probably snap them, and then like you play Silver Sable, Azmat, and these kind of stuff. But that's why they have Luke Cage. So.
I mean, U.S. Agent's still really good for that, right? Like forcing them to not play Surtur gives you a lot of power, and no one
Mobius as well.
wants
Mobius
to
is
play.
really
Yeah,
good
but
against
Mobius is the real key, right? Like if they're playing one card a turn, even if they're dropping 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, you can usually just get ahead of that.
Yep.
I don't know. You know what I've had little trouble beating this with? Straight up bounce.
Really nice. Okay.
No. You just readjust your power so well, right? Like you're throwing priority 1,000% of the time, and you readjust your power. If they juggernaut you properly, you lose. Outside of that, you just win.
Oh, I thought you said bounce doesn't beat that.
No, I've had no problem with bounce beating this.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I've got like a crazy win rate against this with bounce. Again, like I lose, and almost all the cubes I lose are them hitting things and me realizing I'm not hitting things, so I just run.
Yeah, that's
or
the
getting
thing. It's
juggernaut.
like, if we're talking about top 1,000 players, typically this deck should only win 1 and 2, and often lose 4. So, to me, it's in the second group with like Discord and Scream, but it's at the bottom of the group.
I think it's the top of the group.
You think it's the top of the group?
I think it's the top of the group.
So.
All right, I'm out.
I mean, the stats of it has fallen off, but I
picked up a lot. Like they fall off with the OTA, and then they got back up, like kind of like very impressive.
What is Nico in here for?
It's the list of the rank 1 player at the moment.
Yeah, for being this isn't the one he's playing though, and I don't want to have that conversation right now. But I'm still frustrated at this entire situation. But Nico into because all of a sudden he gained like 400 snap points in like a day, and that something feels real awkward there. But Nico into is here for Cull, and it's here for just like it can make you an extra 1/4. It could just do a lot of useful things. It's Nico. It's a Swiss Army knife.
I don't know. I feel like it should just be Squirrel Girl.
And sometimes you can turn 5 Nico copy score.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still feel like it should just be Squirrel Girl for Crossbones and Cull Obsidian.
To
I
me,
also agree.
like, it's,
Well,
yeah, I like Squirrel Girl, but probably would cut a 3 cost for that.
the thing is with Nico's,
No, I don't think you can cut a 3.
on turn 3, you're doing Surtur,
me
turn
do it.
4, you're doing a 4-drop. The only times you can do Nico is turn 5, turn 1 and 2. Okay, maybe turn 6.
Unless you get a Zebu. Unless you get a Zebu.
Oh yeah, true.
So,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I have this at the top of the pile. I think Discard has a reasonably good matchup. I think Move has a really good matchup. I think against basically anything janky or silly, this dominates. Like, this is just consistent.
It's so consistent.
It's your show. I'll just go on the record saying I completely disagree and I want to come back. That's all.
I want to know why. Why don't you think it's good? Like, I want to know how to counter
I
it more.
didn't say it's bad. I'm putting it in the group of like good
Yeah.
decks. I just think Discard and Scream are better.
Okay.
So, weirdly, I think Discard is better and Scream is worse, but I think Scream is better than Discard, and I've clearly got an issue. The win rate on this is lower than all of these.
Mm-hmm.
The best win rate on these are lower than all of these. By, like, a lot. That should matter, too.
Yeah.
By, like, a good 3%. Jesus. In a larger sample. Ooh. This has to be lower then. What the fuck is this deck? The best version of this is a Heimdall version that runs Human Torch and Dagger.
Oh yeah, I
That's too
see it now
much.
too. Yeah.
Just Aim
Yeah.
Goal is pretty fun though in this kind of deck.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, okay, this deck has to go down. If it doesn't have a higher win rate and it's the easiest idiot to play deck, then it needs to be lower.
This gives me Shuri Sauron vibe.
Should Scream? Can we just split Scream and Discard with this and call it a day and move on so we don't have to take all day
Sure.
on this one deck?
Mhm.
All right, great, done. Next. I am genuinely, even though I've played 3 games of this fucking deck, happy that this deck exists in Marvel Snap. It is good for the game that this is a good deck.
Talking about 10s?
I think that kind of baseline straight up power is very useful for a lot of players.
Yeah.
Sarah, this isn't the right list. I don't really give a shit. We all know what the Sarah deck is. It runs Sarah, it runs Mysterio, Hitmonkey, and then it runs a shit ton of tech cards. Cool, that deck. Where's it ranked?
That's very high in my opinion.
Is there a real case that this is number like 1 or 2?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, tell me.
I don't think it's 102.
Yeah,
When you
I
play
mean,
this deck,
its win rate isn't 1 or 2, so I'm just wrong there. But yeah,
when you play this deck, when you win, you always win by very small margins. in my experience.
Yeah, but isn't that how you keep people in the game and get cubes from them?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but I don't think it can be
the
102.
cube rate on this isn't high.
It can't be 102 because it just gets shut down by Morbius. Like,
The cube rate is also
GG.
really low. Like, this is one of the, like, this has got win rates that are comparable to the Scar tier, but it's got less cube rate than almost all of them. Like, even the really good versions. Look at that, the fucking Malekith version's kicking ass.
It's
God, I
definitely a
love
good
Malekith.
deck. It has tools to everything except if the opponent plays Morbius on 5. But
What does it cut for Malekith?
The
Yeah,
version that's running Malekith is the, let me go find it. I scrolled away. Is a Ms. Marvel version that doesn't run Monkey. It's also running Fenris Wolf, and I still don't like Malekith and Fenris Wolf together. I think that's... But, like, I guess Hydra Bob, Shadow King, US Agent. Cassandra Nova's not good with Malekith. Sage, Luke Cage, Gladiator. I don't know. I don't like that deck, but it's, I mean, okay, it's got no sample size. I was scrolling down. Fair enough. Ignore that. I don't know. So, okay. This is gonna... So, is this better than Discard? I would vote no.
No.
Is this better than Arishem?
No.
Do we ever agree?
I put it actually over Discard.
Really, I don't have it over discard. I think it beats.
I think it's under Arishem.
So I think it's above Arishem, below discard. Den?
I don't know. I'll be honest, I have no idea.
All right. So what we're discussing is whether it's above discard, below discard, or below Arishem. Want to just compromise and go between discard and Arishem?
Sure. Yes.
So you're saying
There you go.
discard, then this, and then Arishem?
So I'm going to read the list where we are. At number 10, we have Double Up and Ronin. They will be next eliminated, and then us not having that fight pays off. 9 is Mill. 8 is Arishem. 7 is Sarah. 6 is Discard. 5 is Scar. 4 is Scream. 2 is Move Bounce. Sorry, 3 is Move Bounce. 2 is Move, and 1 is Bounce. We all good?
Yeah,
Is
okay.
10's better than Arishem?
Yeah. But it's not better than some versions of Arishem. We'll get there. BBAK, top 5, Thanos. This is just the classic, the Thanos Zoo. I think Thanos Zoo is the best Thanos.
I don't think there is a Thanos deck that can be called best.
I mean, fair? I do. It's not this, but I do.
And I don't think Zoo is the best Thanos deck either.
For a while, for quite a few days, the stats said it was, and the stats no longer say it is. In fact, the stats on this have taken a nosedive. I'm going to assume that nosedive is Fenris Wolf related.
It's either Fenris Wolf related, or it is the fact that it became popular and bad people started playing it.
Maybe, but yeah. Maybe.
I mean, think about that. So, like, whenever I made Big Dumb
So-
Idiots, same thing happened. I had a great win rate with it, and then other people started playing it. The win rate crashed.
So let's instead say we're talking about the best Thanos right now. Seems to be Wiccan Thanos, and I will never understand that as long as I live.
What?
Oh, it's simple. Wiccan is good enough to carry Thanos, but you could just play normal Wiccan.
Yeah. This isn't going to make the list, is it?
No, I don't think so.
I'm not putting it on the list.
Yeah,
It's
also not.
better than Double Up Ronin.
So it makes the list for a short amount of time.
Yes.
Sure, if you want to put it on the list so he doesn't cry, sure.
And then we'll just kick it off in a few minutes. Everyone okay with that?
Of course.
All right, let's kick it off immediately. This is not necessarily the version I would play, but it's the Thanos Arishem list that I think is going to be near the top. Quinjet, Shadow King, Cable, Mobius, Agent Coulson, Shang-Chi, Legion, Blob, Mockingbird, Alive, Thanos Arishem. And then if you would rather consider the current number 1 list, the current number 1 list is the Tens shell with Thanos and Arishem in it. Where on the list does this go? Thanos Arishem is an archetype, not this 12 particularly.
I think this is the best home for Thanos currently. Currently
So
discovered.
I agree completely. It's why I think it's more correct for Arishem than not, because when you draw stones anytime but basically turn 6, you're not drawing air, right? Because you're drawing the opportunity to see more cards. And Arishem loves that opportunity.
Yeah,
Like
this
that extra energy you have just becomes a stone.
is like a guilty pleasure, this list. I don't know, it's so fun to play. But when you play it, its win rate is not absurd. But obviously when you lose to
The
it,
win
you
rate
think,
on the varieties of this list is way higher than you would think.
really? Okay, we can check it out. But I know if you lose
Like
to
just
this,
type in Thanos and then Arishem, and the win rates on all of these are like,
well, how many games are you putting in your filter?
I have 80 right now.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's like 90. Yeah,
So
that's good.
so I start out at 40 for the first couple weeks of the season, and then by week 3 I go to 80, and I stay at about 80 for the rest of the season.
I definitely hope this deck never becomes a complete meta. It's so unpredictable. And they can really like just outpower you randomly. And
Dan, what say you about this one?
To me, this deck is complete garbage. So
I
Like-
think it's
I want to say it doesn't deserve to be on the list, but honestly, I don't think it deserves to be discussed at all.
really.
I think this is a fad of the moment, post Thanos buff, and any Arishem deck is better than it. I think like Arishem is carrying Thanos, and you can remove Thanos, and it's going to change absolutely nothing. And
So I
proof
think
is we have Thanos in there, and we change absolutely zero card to an Arishem deck. Like Thanos has zero impact on this deck.
You get a lot of
Okay.
draws randomly, and you have a free 10 power card. Like an
yeah,
egg.
that's
I mean,
that-
play Arrow. You have that, and you don't even need to draw Greenstone. And you actually have an ability attached to it.
well.
I mean,
Thanos
to
can
me,
have lots of useful
the
abilities,
fact that
right?
the deck doesn't even change a card in order to play Thanos, like there's nothing. Like Thanos doesn't bring anything. It doesn't change the synergy. It doesn't tilt the deck into any direction. It's literally, oh, let's slot Thanos in there. Sure, let's slot Thanos, but that's not a deck. That's just an Arishem deck that says, hey, Thanos, you got buffed. Let's try you.
What about the tens version, which I will now dig up momentarily?
I like the 10th version. At least it makes sense.
So that list is the current Luke Skywalker list is Loki, Shadow King, Juggernaut, Phastos, Surtur, Atuma, Kull, Blob, Mockingbird, Scar, Thanos, Arishem.
Sure, let's remove Loki, and I'll agree with it.
Yeah, I don't understand why Loki's here necessarily either.
Because people have learned that it's Arishem Loki, so they put Loki in it.
Well, and the stones, like you Loki and then you do the stones,
Yeah,
and you get the extra
Yeah.
draw.
that's just so unlikely to happen, though. I don't know. Whatever. I think this version makes the list.
I'll follow the group.
like the Surtur
Like it's at
version.
least as good as Sarah.
The Surtur version from 60 games played has like 63% win rate. Or 62% win rate.
Jesus, really?
But yeah, it's played mainly by one guy, but who's obviously playing it at a higher win rate.
I mean, look, I'm gonna get that. By the time this airs, this is featured in tomorrow's video, and the play rate just spikes, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm gonna spike the play rate of this tomorrow morning.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's win
So
So win condition is
Can
just
we
to
put it-
outpower you. Well,
I have a suggestion for now. I think we put this around Sarah and Arishem for the time being, and it could be higher, but it's tentatively there. We just don't know yet.
Sure.
Be above or below plain Arishem.
I'll definitely. I put
My
it
gut-
above, but I think Dan will put it below.
I think I have it above too. Gunny?
I say
Majority
above.
wins.
And not above Sarah though. Not
I don't
yet,
know.
anyway. I think if this version is the right version, it will end up above, but I think that it's hard to know that like 2 days after this has been a thing. And Sarah's been a thing for like 3 months. Malekith. This is probably my favorite deck in the game right now. Zebu, Hazmat, Psylocke, US Agent, Valentina, Juggernaut, Luke, Copycat, Malekith, Anti-Venom, Man-Thing, Ajax. Mid-range. What do we think of this list? Den?
I think it's a good deck until you run into Luke Cage.
Yeah, Luke eats this. Like, this just loses Luke.
Yeah, but otherwise, I think it's a pretty decent deck. And Malekith actually made it much better.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I like the deck. I think it deserves a spot on the list. Don't know exactly where, but
Sizer?
Yeah, I've recently replaced Copycat with Red Guardian because of the more discard
Luke.
gamers out there.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. It gets completely shut off by random decks containing Luke Cage as a tech choice. But besides that, it's really good. Like I love like snapping if I get to play a 4-cost on 3 and a 4-cost on 4 to a Psylocke or Zabu, and this deck is also good into Arishem. This has his favorite against Arishem because of the US Agent and the Man-Thing and even the Ajax.
What's a replacement for Valentina?
Oh yeah, you could put Quake.
I've also thrown just like Cable and Mirage in there just fine. Like Mirage is really underrated just as a card to give you numbers.
Especially in a Thanos meta. Like, you get a 1/3 draw a card. I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
So I would personally have this card somewhere in the Scream Scar discard list. I think it's better than discard, but worse than Scar.
Yeah,
Sure,
it beats
that's the
discard and
group.
loses to Scar because Scar has Luke Cage randomly.
That's the group I would have put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's simple enough. That was quick. What the fuck did I name this in our list? Toxic something. So I'm just gonna call it Toxic Malekith. Seems like a fine name. Toxic Ajax. I don't know what I'm calling this. Whatever. Mill is gone. We are at 10 of Arishem. Arishem Thanos. Sarah, discard. Toxic Ajax, Scar, Scream, move, and bounce. I don't think bounce is gonna be number 1, but we're gonna have to get there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Husky Pile. Does this make the list? This is Hood, Ebony Maw, Shadow King, Hawkeye, Electro, Jubilee, War Machine, Misery, Blink, Lady Deathstrike, who's now Shang-Chi, Alioth, and Infinite.
This is a very fun deck, but I don't think it gets them.
Yeah, I think it's I don't think it makes the list right now, but I did want to mention it. It's also got the highest win rate of anything we've talked about.
Wow.
Whoa.
130 games, 64% win rate, 0.9 cube rate.
Nice.
Oh, wait. Is this the Swan version?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
right?
Swan version, yeah.
Yeah, this is it. It's just, it ended up changing like on one other card. But yeah, this is the single winningest deck of anything we have talked about in top 10% Infinite. Oh, it cut
Over a
Shadow
small
King. It just
sample
added
size.
more ones, right? Yeah, it added Swan and more ones.
I mean, the way you beat this deck is on turn 6 you pressure all 3 lanes, typically.
Well, it depends, because if the way it's supposed to be built, you can make like 3 or 4 demons with that deck.
Yeah, but on average it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
I
If
have
it
good
gets
experience.
everything, it's really hard to beat.
I have good experience beating it, but I've never played it myself.
I have. I think it's a very good list. I think there's an argument that it's better than Arishem and Sarah, but I don't know if I buy that argument yet. Win rate on that version, though, is huge. Huge.
That's another list I'm going to try out, actually.
What is the difference?
It has Black Swan instead of
Hydra Bob.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, and Hydra Bob for the Shang spot. For the Shang 3/7 spot. Do we have to have it on the list because its numbers are completely stupid in a real sample size?
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah, we should. But it's definitely, the viewers should definitely try out this deck as well.
I'm going to throw this above Sarah. Is above Sarah crazy?
I don't have the experience with it to rate it, so...
The
surprise
number should
element.
speak for itself.
Den, what? Sorry.
It has the surprise element at the very least.
All right, let's throw it above Sarah for the time being. Any vetoes to that idea?
It's turn 6 is 1 6-drop and 1 demon, or?
Well, it's turn 6 if you get Black Swan out is multiple 6-drops.
Okay, if you get
Demons,
Black Swan
Ebony
out,
Maw, and Hydra Bob.
The thing is, the deck is still pretty new, so there are like various ways to play it. For example, like when I tested it, I played it with Odin and no Lady Deathstrike, and also at Grandmaster. So routinely, I had like 3 or 4 demons in my hand.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to fuck around with this, huh? Cool list, though. Very cool list. Props to Husky.
The way you get Electro only 50% of the games. The chance that you draw Electro is only 50, and play it on turn 3 is 50%.
But you can win without Electro if you see Swan, or if you hit something good with Jubilee, or if you hit War Machine.
True. Okay. Jubilee into Misery into another Jubilee.
Yeah. Well, Jubilee into Blink, right?
Oh yeah.
Still a play. So like,
But yeah,
you can Jubilee into
rather
Blink. You can War Machine, and then you can just start like dropping crazy stuff. You can Black Swan on 4 War Machine, and then you can still put out like, you can Black Swan and whatever, right? Like, And then you can still drop Infinite, a demon or 2 demons, Hood and Maul. It's a lot of power that out of nowhere, which gets you cubes. All right. You can all yell at me. I still think this is the hardest deck to play against. This deck rolls me, and maybe it's just me, but this deck has been real good against everything I play. It is the Toxic Soul King version of the MSL Trauma list. It's Quicksilver, Shadow King, Cable, Kate, Speed, Surtur, Copycat, Malekith, Wiccan, Arrow, Alioth, Magneto. Then, take us away.
It's a good Wiccan deck. I mean, Wiccan is amongst those cards that can push decks on its own, and I think it's the best one so far. So it lacks flexibility, and I feel like once you know what it is, whenever they miss Wiccan, you
Ooh,
can
the win rate
kind of
collapsed on it.
reliably snap against it. So it's like it's a fine deck. Like it's fine. Would put it like second group or something like that.
Sizer?
Yeah, I also don't think it belongs to like the S tier decks. And
Okay.
as Dan said it, I think it's maybe the best Wiccan deck around at the moment. But and also that whenever they break the Wiccan curve, you can snap them. Like if they, they're playing Wiccan because they're playing Quicksilver, and if they don't play on curve, you snap them, and you'll be favorite. I think in the
Where would
Conquest
it rank?
title. Oh, I think below discard.
Yeah, in
Above.
that zone, like we have what? Discord, Sarah, Scream, these kind of decks.
Discard that Husky Pile deck, then Sarah. Is this better than Husky Pile?
I think it's worse than
I
all of
think
those.
so.
Oh, the Husky Pile? I don't know, but
Worse than Sarah?
yeah, I think this is worse than Sarah.
Worse than Arishem Thanos?
I actually think so.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Then?
whatever we all agree on.
No, I'm fine trashing the deck. I don't mind.
Wow, I would
don't have any
personally have this in
attachment.
like number 4.
Okay, well then we can like.
Well, no, look, I'm
average it.
clearly outvoted if everyone else has it off. Gunny, what say you?
I don't have no experience with it. It doesn't work for me.
Okay. Yeah. I've got a really great win rate with this, and this, even when I'm playing bounce, has been like almost all of my bounce losses.
How?
Malekith hits things like Shadow King just enough. Some versions run Red Guardian, and it's hit Red Guardians that have been really obnoxious. Arrow has moved things that I'm trying to beast or do things with in annoying ways. And Alioth is just still really annoying. Speed
Okay.
and Surtur just get big enough. It's just enough little annoying combinations of things that it gets me.
But it only has two
Okay.
2-drops, like if you don't count Shadow King. I don't know, it's more often than not gonna get the Wiccan off. Yeah, of course, the Wiccan
Fair.
goes off, it's
It's
really a
really-
threat.
Yeah. Fair. Alright. Down Javar, mid-range Malekith. This is just this is sort of the Ajax decks that doesn't run Ajax. Quicksilver, Shadow King, Hawkeye, US Agent, Valentina, Luke Cage, Red Guardian, Copycat, Shang-Chi, Malekith, Man-Thing, Wiccan. And Den sent me a version of this that has... That's the Thor's deck, excuse me. That has Invisible Woman, US Agent, Sage, Luke in it. Gladiator, Zemo, because it's Den and he runs Gladiator, Zemo, and everything. Stuff like that.
What? I just picked the actual best win rate of the deck.
Okay. That's fair.
I did
That does
research.
That does have a good win rate. 60% win rate, 0.69 cube rate. All right.
Trying to be a good host.
Yeah, I'm
Well, no,
teasing.
actually a good guest. I don't know what I am anymore.
Does this make the list above Arishem Thanos, which is our current number 10?
When we talk about does this
I
beat
think so.
Ajax version of it?
I mean, Scott Luke, so yes. Does it beat it?
No, I
But
meant
does
like,
it beat other things?
I don't think so. I think Thanos Arishem's above it.
I do too, but I like this version. This is one of my favorite decks in the game right now. I've been playing this a lot.
I actually want to try this list.
It's really good. Really good. So this doesn't make the list. We can move on.
I lack experience with this list, but it looks cool. It has like tools against everything ish.
I like the Invisible Woman. I think the Invisible Woman's probably why the win rate on the other one is higher. Den, what do you think?
Oh, I think Thanos Arishem is still on the list, so I definitely want to get that one out. But
I'm fine putting this above it. Fuck it. Fuck
it's
Arishem
fine.
Thanos. I want Arishem Thanos at number 10. It would kick off Sarah. Is this better than Sarah?
I think the Ajax version is better than this. What do you guys?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So I think the best Ajax version might be the Ajax Frigga version, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Like, not the Malekith, the Frigga.
Statistically, for sure.
I like
yeah.
Malekith more. But, like, the Frigga is just really, really, really good with anti-venom. And people have
just
not
checked
learned
stats.
that that's a combo to run against. Yeah?
It overtook the Frigga version.
Did it really? All right, I'm typing in anti-venom and Ajax, I guess, to get this. What the fuck? The cube rate on the Frigga version just went to negative 0.04? How did that happen?
I think the Frigga version was just farming Surturs in week 1 with like triggering a US agent and stuff.
Yeah, but negative 0.04 cube rate? What is happening to the cube rate of this deck? Do you see these cube rates?
Yeah.
Luke Cage.
But like negative 0.0, then why are you staying again? I guess opponents are luking you late and you're getting blown out
by Luke Cage.
Yeah, negative plus 0.04 and negative 0.04 is the two different versions of this. That's wild. What the fuck? I had like 4 days ago, the stats on this deck were through the roof. All right,
Luke Cage.
We need to lower both of these lists. To be honest, Toxic Ajax has to go down a few spots. Toxic Ajax above Sarah, below Husky Pile. Be okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Holy shit! Wow, that is a fall from grace and a half. All right, Ika's Wixie, Maria Hill, Nico, Hyderabad, Pixie, Hawkeye, Mobius, Surtur, Malekith, Wiccan, Arrow, Magneto, and then either Heimdall or Alioth. Ika's running Heimdall because everyone plays around Alioth. And if they're playing around Alioth, then they lose Heimdall.
That's a no for me. But
No on the list?
that's a not on the list.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Hello,
Are we done? We have any more to go through? That's it. We got 10. We got a top 10. Number 10 is Arishem Thanos. Number 9 is Sarah, and no one knows what to do with Sarah right now because Sarah is wild. Number 8 is Toxic Ajax, as we see if its fall from grace continues. Number 7 is the Husky Pile, which might end up being way higher, judging on win rate. Number 6 is Discard. Number 5 is Scar. This is also the highest Discard has ever been on this list. We've almost had it make the list multiple times and never had it make it. Number 5 is Scar. Number 4 is Scream.
We had Ella very well ranked against her will, but
yeah, that's fair. I mean, like Apocalypse Discard.
yes.
4 is Scream, 3 is Move Bounce, 2 is Move, and 1 is Bounce, which is telling you as much about the metagame as it is about the biases of the players who made the list.
How do you beat those decks right now?
Which ones?
Just like the bounce, move, bounce stuff.
Cosmo Alioth.
Yeah. Cosmo
or Juggernaut can also disrupt a bit.
Mm-hmm. Invisible Woman, Shadow King is pretty good. Invisible Woman, Killmonger is really good. Stuff like that.
So Sarah Control.
Sarah Control will do it. Various decks that can run Alioth can do it. Like Wiccan, when Wiccan goes off, is usually like able to beat you.
Yeah.
I think Wiccan is one of the best decks in the game. Like just as a concept deck right now. I don't think we even had a Wiccan make the list, did we? Gonna have to look back. Sorry.
I think we had at least one. We tossed the last one, but we had one before.
Yeah. We ended up tossing Wiccan from the list, but I think Wiccan is like the most underrated because I don't think we've come to a consensus Wiccan list. What's the highest win rate Wiccan deck in Marvel Snap? Let's
I
look
just
that
checked.
up.
It's an Ajax version.
Yeah, but like,
Oh wait,
okay.
wait. I typed in Ajax. 1 second. Let me just double check.
No, I just typed in Wiccan. It's the Thanos
Oh
Wiccan.
yeah, it's a Thanos. I don't know how that works.
130 games for 63% win rate, 0.60 rate. That's still worse than the Husky pile.
I mean, the thing is, these are all like super low win rate, super low sample size. So
I don't think
it's
130 games is that low of a sample.
Yeah.
Like, if a deck is 60% and 130, it's usually a real deck.
yeah, it's usually a real deck, but it can also just be one player making that kind of sample size.
That's fair. Sizer, is this your stats? Have you played 130 games with Wiccan Ajax?
No,
With
no,
Malekith?
I haven't. There's someone
Okay.
else.
Because I'm just
Confess
saying
yourself.
every once in a while, I'll be like, wow, that deck has great win rate in a million games. And then I'll go check Sizer's Untapped. And I'm like, that's literally just Sizer stats.
Maybe
I
it's
just
Abra.
watched Sizer stats. Great. That used to happen with Woody a lot too. Where I'd be like, "Oh my god, this deck no one's talking about has," and then I would just go like check Woody's Untapped and be like, "What the fuck, man? This is just Woody playing this deck for an entire night." Thanos Ajax is apparently legit though. I think it's time to take that a little more serious. Sorry, Thanos Wiccan. It's time to take that a little more seriously. That is doing quite well. All right, enough of that. Let's start wrapping up with the variant of the week. First, we have the comic cover. Who picked the comic cover?
I sure
picked
did.
the comic cover. But,
Two of you.
okay.
Gunny, go first this time.
Yes.
I just love the comic book covers. I mean, Marvel Snap is about comics. That's where all the Marvel characters originated, and it's really cool to see the comic books art into the game.
Then?
Man-Thing is actually a card I have several variants that I really like.
Mhm.
So I think I sent 3, and then Glazer told me pick, so I picked.
Yes, that is how, but it's not like pick your 3 variants of the week.
Yeah, I know, but that's just like I just think Man-Thing, like for just a big swampy monster, has a lot of cool variants.
Agreed. Middle one.
Well, I picked the middle one. I like the colors associated with it, and I just think it looks like an alien from the ocean or something. But yeah,
It is. That's the Technarch one. So yeah.
Oh, I thought he got tangled into something.
Yeah, with the techno-organic virus. Or technomode
I'm
virus.
not.
Whatever the one that makes you a phalanx.
All right, I'll go study. I'll be back in like I don't know 10 comic books.
Despite my hate for Venom as a card, I picked the Venomized one. Because that is the stuff of nightmares.
That does look like a
Yeah,
thing of
then
nightmares.
why would you pick it? It's the stuff
Because
of nightmares. Just
it's
leave it.
the most horrifying thing I've ever seen, and I love it. I think it's absolutely amazing.
That could be on the cover of like a metal album.
Yeah, it's if for anyone who hasn't seen it and anyone who's listening, it's the one where he's got the tongue that's also kind of a branch, but it looks veiny because it's a branch coming out of his stomach with the giant horrible teeth and the dripping fingers. It's a nightmare card. Pure nightmare fuel. Like, I think it's unbelievably good for Man-Thing. All right. 10.
Yes.
Why should people follow you?
Because I don't walk very fast, so it's pretty easy.
Ha!
Oh, God.
I've
Dad joke central.
I've been here for too long. I don't know how to sell myself anymore.
Really? Like, seriously? At this point, I'm like, you've done this 17 times. What do we say about 10?
17 times?
I have no idea how many times. It's been a lot, though.
Okay. Well, what? Okay, let's say something actually. Like, people should follow me because I always try to look at the fun parts of card games. Like, I feel like I'm lucky enough to be able to work in card games, and I don't ever want to be a drag about it. So whenever I speak about cards, my goal is to be like entertaining, educative, or like whatever. But I want people to feel like card games are cool and they are right to love it and play it.
So, like, Marvel Snap Zone is the most important site in the community and has been since launch. It's the most viewed. It's the one that has easily the biggest audience and the most casual audience, and like, it helps keep the game going in a very real way. And I stopped writing there, and Lauren barely writes, and Safety barely writes, and Bohe barely writes. So, like, Marvel Snap Zone kind of right now is Den. Like, there's also Canadian Alfredo, right? No offense to Canadian
Yes,
Alfredo.
No. He actually does
He-
a lot, because there's
Yeah.
a type of article, like the very informative, just
Mhm.
like just have to say what's happening, that
Yeah.
I hate doing, and he does those very, very well. So honestly, like, Alfredo is very important to the website. No joke.
I don't disagree. I like Alfredo a lot. Again, I work there. Trust me. I know the ins and outs of this. But like, for the majority of the community, Den is Marvel Snap Zone, and Marvel Snap Zone is extremely important. And I feel like it's probably worth keeping up with one of the most important people in the game. Like, especially like for everyone, right? Like, I literally there's two resources I check constantly. I always watch I read Den's tier list every week because I need to be updated on it. I need to know what the stats are telling him is good, and I listen to KM's Sunday video because I need to know, because that's going to shape top meta, right? Like, outside of that, it's my shit, right? But like, I need to watch those two things so that like I can be informed about like what the varieties of the meta are doing. Like, they're enough along with like my own knowledge, because I'm insane, but like to keep up with the game almost entirely just on those two resources, which is absurdly useful. So if you care about that kind of importance and that kind of like scope, then you should absolutely be following that.
Yeah, I think
Also-
another piece about Den is like, think of your favorite high school teacher that you had, like
Me?
the cool one, right? Like
Yeah,
the
me.
cool, the
Yeah,
cool
me.
dude.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Me.
like Aaron. If you're
Yeah, me.
Aaron's student,
Me.
Den is like that. Like, he has so much knowledge. His ability to like portray it is excellent, and he's just like, I don't know, such a cool, level-headed dude. Like, reading his articles, it feels like you're just learning from somebody who's just so invested, and his ability to impart that knowledge is very awesome.
That's all right, guys. You can stop. I'll come back.
All right, good stuff. We got it. We got him. Next up, we got Sizer. Sizer, why should people follow you?
Yeah, if you want to watch some high-level gameplay, I'm currently ranked 2 on the leaderboard, and
You got up to 2?
yeah, we'll be testing.
Poor BBAK.
He dropped
Isn't it
heavily.
like down to 2 with this guy? Like,
No.
So yeah, if you want to
Jesus
be watching
Christ.
high-level gameplay, you can always drop by, and you'll see me also face against like the top 10, top 100 in the world. And
I mean, look, he's the best player in the game at this point. I don't think there's really a fight to be had.
yeah, lately,
About
yes. Most consistent, best
Yeah.
results.
Like, he plays a lot, but like, you watch him and it's not like he's just playing a lot. He's playing a lot at an absurdly high level. You should, if you
like
want to
my
get
favorite.
good.
Go ahead, Aaron.
If you want to get good at Marvel Snap, you want to get good at Marvel Snap, one of the things to do is to just watch the fucking best player and listen to what he says, and then try and get better by following that example. So like, I strongly urge you to go watch Sizer. You'll also find me in his stream all the fucking time. Like, as I do other things, like as I'm watching TV with my son, I just hang out in his stream. Because like, again, it's a thing he says to me. He watches my videos because it's like his Snap vitamins. I watch his streams because it's like Snap vitamins. It keeps my brain in the right shape for Marvel Snap to think about the game the right way.
All right, so
go follow.
my favorite thing about Sizer is like, you think about the best players in games, and there's even some individuals in our community that can be a bit elitist. Just like, I'm part of this group, we're the best, and I've never ever seen that from Sizer. Sizer's so cool, so down to earth. Like, he'll chat with anybody in the chat, and it's just like it's like hanging out with a friend when I'm watching it. A really, really, really excellent at the game friend, but like, he's just so chill. Definitely not elitist. And yeah, I'd love to hang out with him one day.
Likewise. Yeah.
All right. Ooh. All right, that's a
Well,
good
thank
thought
you.
for off air. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon, as I missed a slide somewhere, deleted a slide by accident, come with on-air thanks. I'm going to say thank you to these people as fast as I can. Thank you to Abigail, Lisa, Mentor, Burnett, regardless, David, Deeperfield, Dirty Casual, Downtown, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog, Gamer, Ink, I Am Frostman, J. Tavreet, Thinking Poker, Prime Ryan, Ryan Burke, Ryan Wood, Caretakes Lee, Koi Ray, Black Dahlia, Pyrofrost, The Goat Seeker, Hollowed, Quid Pro Joe, Fat Nick, Mr. Kerfuffle, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, Black Jeebus 23, Extra C, and Skippy G, Jessica Campbell, Tommy Nyquist, The King of Bros Pro, The Great Kazoo, Kevsey Hoda, Ludacris, Corwin, John Q, Jim, Mickey, Clam, Colonel Forbin, 8th Sage, Models, Mod Supreme, The Green Goblin, Unibot, Flan, 56, Steven, Brian Coffin, Tristan Smart, Jason B, The Buzz Not, Special Hoot, Matt H, DJ Mike Hijink, No Flex, Oculars, Mr. Craig Terry, BG, Zodrix, The King of Canada, Deadman Falcon, Jonesy, Two Ties, The Great Lord Evs, The Pirate King Tuccrr, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for ?
Uh, Until next time.
Well played. The T doesn't have to stand for T things. We gave up on that long ago.
Do you finish rap music? Because I have no idea how you do it for so long. Like, speaking fast is a thing. Speaking fast for like 4 entire minutes is a different thing.
So, sir, I'm a high school teacher. Sometimes, like, there's 5 minutes left in the period. I'm like, well, I've got 15 minutes left on my lesson because I just rambled for half the period. Time to get this shit in fast.
Everyone sub. We need to find this man's limit.
People are like, at what point are you going to stop reading the names?
As a community.
At what point are you going to stop reading the names? Like, guys, like that's a good problem to have. I will fucking find a way to read everyone's names. All right, Den, thank you for staying up late with us.
No problem. It's always fun. I'm always super tired at the start of it and super awake at the end of it.
And then it's bedtime as you're super awake.
No, it was bedtime. Now I don't know what time it is. It's like 4:19.
Jesus Christ.
It's Deadpool dinner time. I don't know what it is. Like, it's snack time.
I don't know how I feel about Deadpool's diner still. All right, Sizer, my friend, I would say thanks for staying up late, but we both know you would have stopped streaming, and I'd have to yell at you to go to bed as you continue to test dumb things instead of sleeping. But thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you as well.
Gunny T, as always.
Yes, sir. It's great having these guests on today. Always awesome hanging out with you.
A pleasure. And peace and love, everybody.